Hey guys! So I've decided that since I'm working on this huge, beautiful piece, that I'm going to split the video into a couple videos. Um, Otherwise you'll be waiting like a month and a half for the video for this. So I'm going to split it up in chunks, like tutorial style, so it stays the same speed. And then when I get all four of those done, I'll do a fifth, final, short and sweet, just time-lapse, beautiful piece for you. So yeah, let's have fun with it. So we're going to start off with some blue sky. I am using titanium blue mixed with a little bit of sea blue. And we're just going to do a good chunk at the top here. And if you're not going to frame it, be sure to get all the edges. Next, we're going to do a little bit of our orange here faded in. It's more of a tangerine mixed with a little light pink. And blend that up into the blue a little bit. Next, we're going to do a layer of light pink underneath. I'm doing a little bit bigger of a layer because we're going to paint our mountains over it, so I want to make sure it comes down all the way. So do light pink and fade into a dark magenta. And I'm just going to put a little extra on the canvas here so we can blend it all into the light pink above. And keep blending up until it looks all smooth. Next, I'm going to just take a round brush and just kind of fluff up the colors a little bit. We're going to drag from the bottom and pull it up while our paint is still wet. This is going to give the illusion of some texture in the sky and some clouds without actually painting any clouds. And while you're doing this, be sure to keep your brush damp and mostly clean. We're just dragging the colors up into the next color. So you'll see me step away from the screen periodically in between changing from dark to light and the light to the greenish blue. That's because I don't want to have any of the dark pink into the blue. So go and rinse off your brush, dry it a little bit, and then keep blending. Okay, now we're going to work on outlining our mountains here. They can be any kind of mountains you want. This is where your artistic creativity comes in. I usually like doing, I guess Oregon style mountains. So big, full, sharp, and then kind of like weird shaped. And we're going to come back in and fill them in later with some other colors and some texture and some trees. So don't worry too much about how they look right now. We're just going to get the outline done. You can always come back in later and make them bigger or adjust their shape a little bit. So just kind of play with it, make some odd shapes here and there until you are comfortable and like the style. And it's always good to take a step back and look at it for a minute to make sure you really like it. And then you can go in and fill in some of your spots. We're going to use, since the sun is kind of behind us, I'm thinking the top of the mountains is going to be where most of our light is, and it's going to be pretty dark underneath. So I blended some gray, black, and ultramarine blue is the color blue you want to use. And kind of blend it together, and then when you do your darker shade, add a little bit more black to that mix and a little bit more of that blue, and that'll darken it up without making it black or gray. And then just come in and fill in the mountains. Kind of drag your brush in the way you want your mountains to fall. Because with acrylic paint, it kind of leaves streaks and strips behind, so it's going to texture. So make sure you're texturing it correctly. You don't want to just like blob a bunch of paint in the middle or make circles. Drag your paint down into the sides where your mountain is forming. And I kind of like this little round one back here. I don't know why. It's the only one that's round, but I like it. So if you have any weird, crazy ideas, throw them in your paintings. It's what makes them unique. Some of you will probably recognize this clip from some of my social medias. If you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I will throw the links below and you get sneak peeks of art that I'm working on before it ends up here on YouTube. Especially my Instagram has gotten wild lately. And while you're working on filling in your mountains, make sure you know which ones you want in the forefront and which ones in the background. So don't overlap your mountains. Whichever ones are in front, they're fully in front on both sides. Otherwise, it'll look kind of wonky. And again, if you're not framing the canvas, make sure you get all the sides with whatever you're painting. The sky falls over, the mountain falls over, our water's gonna fall over, because the sides need to look like the canvas just fell over on itself. It just pours over. If you're gonna frame it, you can do whatever you want. You can paint the sides to match, or you can paint them black or pink or purple or green or whatever you want. But don't forget, if you're not framing, do something with them. Don't just leave them be. And if you're going to paint the sides to match your canvas and your picture, don't forget it on every step. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally done that when I first started painting. You'll have like your blue a different color on the corner than on the sky because you had to go fill it in and you didn't have the correct mix. So keep an eye on that and pay attention to it while you're painting. On that note, I would also recommend learning color matching. It helps quite a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to work on some of the design in the mountains so we can really see what's going on and make sure they're actually mountains and not just big black rocks. So I mixed a color that's kind of a greenish color, and then we're going to take white. So what I made for the green is a little bit more of that same blue we're using, some white, and a little light green and light olive green, and mix those together until you get a shade you like, and then just kind of take a smaller flat brush or angled brush, whichever you'd prefer, either will work, and just kind of bring it at the top of the mountain, either little strips or little taps. We just want to have the light catch some of the mountain tops as it's setting. So don't bring it down too far, don't get too crazy with it. This one we want to try and keep at the top to get our lighting correct. And then we'll come in with the white after and just tap even less than the green closer to the top. And I'll get in closer so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And just light taps or strokes. We don't want too much paint on the canvas here. Just little bits here and there. Just want to get the illusion of our shapes in the mountain. I'm going to create some magic. Sorry, my hand's covering most of this part. I get a better angle here in a little bit. I'll have a couple good angles for you. Don't forget, you can also use your nails or fingers as tools. There are other paintbrushes. They can help in any place on your piece to get the right look. Anyone who tells you painting with your fingers is wrong, they're wrong. You don't have to copy the angle of the brush on this one. I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing. So if the technique looks weird, it is. You can try it if you want. But this is where I wanted to give you a better angle of what's going on, in case you couldn't see it well enough on the other sides. And make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush when you're doing this. If you do, wipe off the excess and keep on going. And again, don't forget those edges. I'm going to say it every time. Okay, now we're going to take our white and just add little itty bitty touches here and there around that light green. You can use the same brush or you can use a detail brush. I end up switching to a detail brush after I do these first couple mountains here, just because I liked the way it looked better. Again, with this one, you want to make sure there's not a lot of paint on your brush. We don't want any like blobs or streaks, just itty bitty little light highlights on the tops of your mountains, here and there, just to give it that little extra glow. Catching anything shiny off the top of the mountain, whether it be the rocks or the trees or whatever you're putting up there. As soon as we finish this part, we're going to pull down our mountains a little bit more and add some more details at the bottom. So don't worry, I forgot to mention this earlier, don't worry too much about them right now. As long as you got the base shapes down there, you're good. We're just detailing the tops of our mountains right now. The detailing part takes a while, so once you get it down, you are welcome to skip ahead. But those that stick through it, you have a lot of patience, and I respect that. Or the desire to learn, and I respect that as well. I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible for you to see what I'm doing. But if you want any deeper how-to videos, technique videos, or just a straight up art hacks video, feel free to throw it in the comments below or message me on my socials. I want to know, so share. But I'll let us get back to it now. I'll try to keep the distractions to a minimum. We'll see how long it takes me to get squirreled again. I will say if you add a little too much, you can either take a clean damp brush and just kind of blend it out into your mountain a little bit. Or you can take a clean dry brush and kind of erase it, and then take another damp one and kind of blend it back in. And I can teach you guys how to erase paint in another video if you want me to. Otherwise, if you know how, you can do that if you get the white on too thick. As I'm doing that, I'm kind of going back in a little bit with some of that lighter grayish black that we made earlier, and just kind of adding a little bit more texture into the mountains, a little bit more shape and definition, some curves and cracks, and just kind of shaping them out a little bit more. So if you see anything in your mountain that's not shaping out quite the way you want, go back to that color we made earlier or make a little bit more. It's just that gray, black, and blue with a little tiny bit of white, just a tiny bit. And then blend it together with either a blending tool or mix it together with either a mixing tool or you could just use a paintbrush and rinse it off really good. You could do that too. You don't have to have the specific tools for everything. It's kind of nice to have, but it's not required to make good art. You got to start off somewhere, so don't have to go out and buy all the fun, fancy toys right away if you're just starting out. And if you've been doing it for a while, you probably have some good tips, tricks, and hacks to get the same results. So if you want to share them, feel free to share them in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll keep on going here. I'm coming back in with a little bit more white over the top here. But I blended it with a touch of bright yellow, so it's giving it a little extra bright hue. And we're just gonna ever so lightly, just the littlest bits of highlights here and there in the mountain. You don't have to do that. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure how it's going to turn out. So if you want to watch the video and then see how it looks, and if you like it, rewind and then follow along. But we'll see how this turns out. Half the paintings I do are just, let's try this. And if it works, it works. And if not, it's paint. You can paint over it. It's very forgiving. Or like I said, sometimes if the paint is still wet, you can erase it. So no worries, no stress. Art is a relaxing, anxiety-free outlet. So Do it until it makes you happy, and if it stresses you out, throw it out. Try something else. Not gonna lie, I kind of like how this is turning out. Maybe a little much, but once we add everything else into this piece, I think it's gonna look fantastic. Alright creatives, this video is already a lot longer than I planned it to be, so we're going to cut this up into a couple parts and leave it off here. If you enjoyed what you've seen or learned anything new, please hit that like button and subscribe to see the other parts. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. Love you all, bye!